Hi, everyone. Treeesa here. Happy Friday. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody has had a happy Thanksgiving. And so here we are. This is my first YouTube live. Oh my gosh. And so, for about a month, I've really been wanting to expand myself, right? And so I've really been sitting with that. And I thought, I think a great way for me to just start expanding and sharing more of myself is to do a weekly YouTube live. And so that's how the idea came. And the intention of doing YouTube lives is really to just share more of myself, share more of my story, share my offerings, and share my wisdom and light in hopes that it might help other people. Maybe others will find some upliftment. So that is really the intention behind that. And I was trying to go live on November 4th. I thought November 4th is this time I'm going to start this weekly YouTube live. But I learned you just don't want to start a YouTube live or start something new during eclipse season. So the eclipse season, the Scorpio season, that was pretty rough. That was, I would say, a month of another very transformative time for me. Just, getting knocked down, kicked around, dragged through the mud, just all the messy mess. And so that's why there is a delay. But here I am, divine timing. I am right on time. And so I got to be honest, doing YouTube lives, this is really outside of my comfort zone. So this is not comfortable for me, you know. And so that's why it's a practice, right? I have to practice. I have to practice getting better at, speaking in front of people live. And it's so funny because I was observing my human self, had fear about going live, had anxiety. My human self was like, oh, but my recovering perfectionist, what if something goes wrong and I can't edit it out? So I had my whole human self going in this spiral spin. And then I had my divine self, my higher soul self, was like, you are a unique, magnificent being of love and light. It's time to shine and expand and get out there in the world. So it's so funny how we can observe, right? Our human self and our higher self. It's really fascinating. And, observe without judgment. We really have to just love ourselves and be kind to ourselves as we move through these times of transformation and trying to expand. And so I'd love to ask all of you, what are you doing right now to expand? How are you expanding in your life right now? And I know that can be uncomfortable, but I'd love for you to just send me a comment. Let me know how you're expanding. And so this really becomes a practice. So I am dedicating now my time to show up once a week online. So I'm going to practice every week going live. And I'm going to share myself, and I'm going to share my offerings. I'm going to share Reiki. I'm going to share, the wisdom that I have, the light that I have, again, in hopes that it might help other people. And so if you are embarking on a new practice, I would love to know what new practice you're implementing. Maybe you're implementing a new spiritual daily practice. Maybe there's some new practice you're embarking on. So please let me know in the comments. I would love to know. Everything is a practice. Every day we wake up and we practice, practice being human and practice transforming into our higher selves. And it can be messy, but I'm just going to try to find the joy in this moment. So, if I seem awkward or if I space out and forget what I'm talking about, thank you for just being patient we're just going to keep moving forward. And I'm sure maybe over the weeks and months ahead, maybe this will be a little more comfortable and easier for me to get through these YouTube lives. So I thought that we should just start off with my journey. I really want to share, a little bit about my childhood, a little bit about my healing journey, how mindfulness entered my life, how I decided to open a coaching business, how Reiki entered my life. I just want to share that with all of you so that you have a good sense of who I am. So that's going to be our YouTube live today. I'm just going to share from the beginning and get you up to speed. So that is our session today. So here we go. So my name is Treeesa. I'm a spiritual mind, body, and soul wellness coach, Reiki practitioner-teacher, and angel card reader. And so I grew up in Palos Verdes, California. I am a native California. Actually, I was born in Hollywood. Born in Hollywood and grew up in Palos Verdes, so a native Californian. And of course, I'm part Danish. That's why I'm blonde. I've got part Danish in me. So grew up in Palos Verdes, beautiful family. I have one brother, just a great childhood, so much fun. And so ever since a kid, I was so connected to God, source, creator. I had a very strong, powerful connection. And so I did grow up in Christian Science, a Christian Science religion. And so we would go to Sunday school every Sunday. And I just thought that was the greatest thing. So spirituality for me, it was everything. I just loved spirituality. I even remember one of my Sunday school sessions telling the teacher and the kids at the table, I remember saying, I love my time alone because my time alone is when I can connect with God. And so I remember saying that when I was younger. So just to give you a sense that my connection to God, source, creator, and that spirituality was apparent early on. And then, of course, I am highly sensitive and empathic. Intuitive. So I feel everything through my body. So all my messages come in. I just feel everything in my body. And of course, get emotionally hijacked a lot of the times, most of my life, right? Being an empath. And another way I receive my messages, I also get clear knowing. So things just drop in. I just know things and I don't know how I know. They just come in. So those are my two strong clairs, the feeling and the clear knowing. So that kind of gives you an idea about how my system operates. And so let's see. And of course, I'm a Pisces with a Scorpio moon. So very intuitive. And again, Pisces, all that spirituality, astrology, everything mystical, magical, that is my jam. And of course, Scorpio, that's the most intense moon. That's why I've had some intense dark nights of the soul. So that's been pretty intense. Oh my gosh. But hey, that's my jam. The underworld. I know how to really get myself out of darkness and back into the light. So that's been kind of a fascinating journey to be on. So yes, so everything was really great. Now, hitting about the age 16, of course, teenage years, this is when things got pretty rough. So as I'm sure many people have had rough teenage years, so that's when things for me started to go downhill. So just to give you a few nuggets, one horrible thing that happened is I remember one day getting in my car, starting my car, backing up, and I was like, what was that? And unfortunately, my cat was so old, could not hear the car, did not move out of the way. I ran over my cat and I killed my cat. And that was just horrific. And so that was just such an unfortunate time in my life. And so that was one thing that was just awful. And then another thing that was pretty awful, being at Palos Verdes High School, a lot of snobby, girls, real, catty. And so I remember they would be like, if I came to school in sweats, they'd be like, oh my gosh, I would never wear sweats to school, that kind of thing. And then people would tease me with my hair, call me albino. So I developed some insecurities. So I was really insecure around that time. And I started to get depressed around the age of 16. And then, of course, boys were entering the picture, and I didn't really know how to deal with that. So it was starting to get pretty messy, and I started to get depressed. And then around 17, my junior year of high school, that was really bad. So my parents were starting to talk about divorce, and I just didn't know who to turn to for help. So I was really internalizing all the pain. I didn't quite know what to do with all that at 17. And so I became suicidal. It was horrible. And I slit my wrists and just cut up my arms, just self-harm, because I was just crying out for help. I didn't know who to turn to, who to talk to. So I just was self-harming myself. It was just an awful time. So that was awful. And then, of course, I'll never forget in my junior year there at high school, we had this English class and we had to do an oral report. And I don't like speaking in front of people. And but I did it, and I got up there and I did it. And then the whole class was laughing at me. And as I was walking out, I'll never forget, the teacher was so rude. He didn't do anything when all the kids were laughing at me. And he left his grade book open so that I could see it when we were walking by. And he wrote F by my name. And I was like, are you kidding me? I could have not done anything, not gone through that whole trauma of having my peers laugh at me. And I'd still get an F. So I was like shocked. So as I was walking out of that classroom after that experience, trying to integrate being laughed at and given an F for trying to do a report, I was like, you know what? I'm done here. I'm done with this high school. So I marched myself right to the counselor's office and I said, I'm done here. This is not working out for me. And she was so sweet. I had a sweet counselor. And so she gave me my options. She's like, you can take the test to get out, or you can go to this continuation school. And she's like, I want you to check out that continuation school because there's teachers there who actually love teaching. They're smaller classes. And that kind of sounded nice to me. So I went out and I checked out that continuation school and I loved it, because we were all just a bunch of misfits. And I just felt like I fit in perfectly up there. So I continued my high school education up there at the continuation school. And again, being up there were kids on drugs, of course. And I was still in that depressed state. And so I remember asking some girls I knew, I said, hey, how can I buy some drugs? And they were on drugs and nothing came out of their mouths. Like they didn't talk to me. They didn't speak to me. And I was like, well, this is really weird. And because I'm going to people who are on drugs, trying to get drugs, but they're not telling me how to do it. So I thought that was really weird. And so then I go outside and I see this guy and I'm like, hey, I want to buy some drugs. And he said, Treeesa, I'm not going to tell you how to buy drugs. And he's like, so you're going to sit down and you're going to tell me what's going on, what's up with you? And I just felt like he was an angel. He really talked me off the ledge. And it was so great that I wasn't able to get my hands on any drugs because in that state I was in, I know I would have OD'd or something awful. So thank goodness that, I made it through high school without, drugs or trying drugs. So that's amazing. And so that was the high school. So I finished high school at the end of my junior year, and then my parents got divorced. And so that was really rough, and lived with my mom for a little bit, but then she moved up to Mammoth, and then my dad moved to Colorado. So I moved in with my sweet grandma in Redondo Beach and lived with her for about a year and a half. Had a lovely time. And then after that, when I was about, I guess I was about 19 or so, I just started moving out then on my own and just moving around. And so it was a tough time because then I was still trying to process, some depression and trying to digest the divorce of my parents. And then my parents got remarried. I think my mom remarried a year after the divorce, and then I think my dad remarried a couple years after the divorce. Amazing people, but it was a hard time because still just trying to heal from the divorce and then welcoming in new step parents. It was just, kind of a transition, trying to get used to everything. so so the rocky years for me were 16 to 26. That was kind of my really dark, depressed phase in life. But then fate happened. And so when I was 26, my best friend, who's Taiwanese, she called me one day. She's like, "Oh my gosh, Treeesa, I met this Buddhist master. He's in town. So I want you to meet us at the Buddhist temple in Hacienda Heights. I think it's called Sai Lai Temple." And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." And so sure enough, I met them at the temple, and the temple was so beautiful. So this was my first time at a Buddhist temple. And I remember walking up these steps, a lot of steps before you get up to the top where you go into the Buddha hall where there were 3 Buddhas. But I remember walking up those steps, I felt like I was home. I just had that, clear feeling and knowing that this feels like home to me. And so we went into the temple, and the Buddhist master showed me how to pray from my heart. And it was my first time with incense. He showed me incense. So it was a beautiful experience. And so we were in praying for a while. And then afterwards, we came outside, sat at a temple, and then I was able to spend a lot of time with them. And I found out that I had 3 ghosts on me, and one ghost was from my dead cat. And that's why I was, cutting up my arms. That ghost of the cat was I was scratching, cutting myself. It was awful. So I found out that from the age of 16 to 26, I was dealing with 3 ghosts, and they were trying to ruin my life, trying to take my life. So I was so relieved to find out that finally that interference had been taken away. So that was amazing. And then I was able to listen to the Buddhist master share about esoteric Buddhism. And as he was telling me, again, I was like, wow, this totally resonates within my soul. Again, that feeling of, I really feel like I found my soul family, my soul home. Buddhism, walking the path of Buddha, that just becoming my own Buddha, everything about that felt amazing. And so much so that shortly after I took off my cross necklace, I took all the Bibles that I had and I returned them to my church. I said, "Thank you so much." But now at that age of 26, I started the journey of walking the path of Buddha to become my own Buddha. So at the age of 26, that's how mindfulness entered my life. And so that was fate. That was something that definitely was fated on my journey. And I was so grateful because it was the Buddhism, the esoteric Buddhist teachings that I received from my Buddhist master and my best friend, that soul connection there, and just having that mindfulness and creating that spiritual daily practice starting at that age. It was just amazing. And it started me on I started a better trajectory. My life started to go back up instead of continue to spiral down. So I was so grateful. So that for me, just having that mindfulness, the soul family, the soul connections, that was just so positive, so beneficial in my life. So let's see. So let's fast forward a little bit. So then when I was 31, I got married to the most amazing man. And then when I was 33, I got pregnant. And it was rather scary because when I realized I was pregnant, I was starting to have some pain in my leg. Things felt weird. And so we found out that I had a blood clot, a deep vein thrombosis in my leg. And so then after further testing, we discovered that I have a factor V blood clot condition that I inherited from my mom's dad, who died when my mom was 16. So I never met that grandpa. He died of a blood clot because he had this same factor V blood clot condition. So apparently I inherited that gene. And when my body got pregnant, it started to blood clot. So I found out that all my pregnancies would be life-threatening because of this factor V blood clot gene that I had. So that was really scary. So my pregnancy was pretty rough. Oh my gosh, just terrifying. Because then I was so scared, like, oh my gosh, I have to be on blood thinner the whole time. And I was worried if that would hurt the baby. But luckily, the blood thinner didn't cross the placenta, so it wasn't going to hurt the baby. So thank goodness for that. But then a rough patch came at 6 months pregnant. I went in to refill my prescription, and the pharmacy didn't refill it. And so every day I kept checking, is my prescription done? And it took them a week. And I finally got my prescription after a week had gone by. And so I started taking it, but then it was too late. I looked down, my leg had swollen. I had to drive myself to the hospital, and they did some tests, and the doctors looked at me like in disbelief. They said, okay, your lungs are filled with blood clots right now, but the reason you're alive is because they're small enough. So I was like, what? So it was pretty crazy. And so I spent 2 weeks in the hospital, and they were trying to get circulation flowing through my leg, and they're trying to get the blood clots out of my lungs. It was pretty awful. And I remember I asked my Buddhist master, I said, am I going to die? And he's like, no, not yet. So I said, phew, okay, I'm going to make it through this. So that was kind of good news. And so anyway, that was a rough pregnancy, but everything worked out. You know, my son was born healthy, and they got me stabilized after a while. So we got through that one. Oh my goodness. So I've had kind of a crazy healing journey along the way. So my son came into our life in December 2003. So amazing. And that was wonderful. And then just moving right along, though, unfortunately, in 2009, we got a divorce. So that was so rough. And of course, we bought our condo at the top of the market. And then in 2009, it was at the crash. And so the divorce we were going through, we had to short sale the house. It was like bankruptcy. It was a whole messy mess. So that was rather unfortunate. So in 2009, that's when I became a single mom, and just was marching through that journey. So that was kind of rough. And what else? Okay, but then in 2010, another moment of fate happened when my best friend met our second Buddhist master. And so, of course, I was so excited. We went to Taiwan together, and I got to meet him. And so my second Buddhist master in Taiwan, he channels Dzang Pusa. So Dzang Pusa is one of the Buddhist bodhisattvas. And so I just want to read this to you, just so you all get a sense of who Dzang Pusa is. So, just for starters, in Buddhism, a bodhisattva is a potential Buddha or someone who has achieved perfect enlightenment and is entitled to enter directly into nirvana, but who renounces this in order to first bring salvation to all who are suffering on earth. And bodhisattvas are usually crowned with jewels and all sorts of things. So after the death of Buddha, Dzangpusa was the bodhisattva that saved all living creatures in heaven and hell. So Dzangpusa gained enlightenment on Jinhua Mountain in Anhui province, and several decades later, he entered nirvana. And I'm not good with all these names, so just bear with me. So Dzangpusa is one of the four bodhisattvas of the Mahayana Buddhism, along with Samantabhadra, Manjusri, and Avalokitesvara. So sorry for those butchered names. So Dzangpusa is responsible for the enlightenment of all the beings in the six worlds. He's vowed not to attain Buddhahood until hell is emptied of all beings. So Dzangpusa helps relieve suffering and illness. And remember, hell is a state of consciousness. So that I just wanted to give you a little more about Pusa. That's one of my guides. He's really one of my homies because my soul has chosen to traverse through many moments of hell in my life. And it's so great to have Pusa help me back to the light. So grateful for Pusa. So he is with me. And so now you know about one of my guides, Pusa, who's with me. And another moment of fate happened in 2011. It was April 2011. I worked at the Montage Hotel in Laguna Beach, and the Dalai Lama was coming to our hotel. So I worked in the banquet department. So I had an amazing boss and banquet team. And so my boss had me help him set up the tea station for the Dalai Lama. And next thing I know, one of the Dalai Lama's monks approached me and asked me if I would serve the Dalai Lama tea. And I was like, what? I said, of course, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what is happening right now? And so I had the great honor of serving His Holiness tea. And it was incredible. And he is the most loving, joyful, sparkly soul you've ever seen. I was just so close to him and his face, and the most amazing being, like being in his presence. You just feel his love and light just radiating, and his eyes just sparkle. And it was so funny because he's like, do you have any Danish? And he says, I love Danish. And it's so funny because we set up these fancy, like little desserts, and he didn't want any of that. He wanted those like Danish pastries. So our guys had to race back to the hotel, grab the Danish, and then I served His Holiness Danish, and he ate like two. He's like, this is my weakness. So that was a fun moment in my life, real highlight, being able to serve His Holiness tea. And so I asked my Buddhist master, I said, oh my gosh, I served the Dalai Lama tea. And then, of course, Pusa, he said, yes, the Dalai Lama remembers you. And I'm like, what? And so Pusa was saying, yes, apparently in one of my past lives, I assisted the Dalai Lama. So the Dalai Lama just recognized my soul. So that was really cool. And the only reason I'm sharing all this is really to paint the picture that I'm really Taiwanese. I'm really Taiwanese, and for some reason, I just chose to come here as a white girl with blonde hair. But my soul just resonates with the Eastern traditions and philosophies. So that's why I've wanted to kind of share this journey just to show you my roots are really deeply rooted into Eastern traditions, philosophies, Buddhism. That all is just my soul family. That's just who I am and where I come from. So, okay, so to bring you up to speed, so now let's jump forward to 2020 in the pandemic. Of course, huge transformative year for all of us. And so I remember, well, in 2020, I just remember when everybody was starting to have to work from home, suddenly that felt so amazing because remember, we were like, as a single mom, I was racing my son to school, racing to work, racing to the gym, racing my son to practice sports, racing home, making dinner. I was like a spinning tornado, just racing around. So when everyone was starting to go home and we were going into that lockdown, I actually was like, oh my gosh, I can actually breathe. I don't have to race all over the world anymore. We can just slow down. And for me, that just felt amazing. And then in May of 2020, a very unexpected and shocking event happened. I lost my job. And I had loved my job. And I had that job for almost 9 years. And that was devastating. That was shocking. That was such a beautiful chapter of my life. And it was one of those tower moments. The universe comes along and just rips the rug out from under us, don't they? So that was a tower moment. Just got completely ejected from one phase of life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, here I am. And I wasn't working, and suddenly I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a lot of healing to do, right? Suddenly when you slow down and you have time to process everything and look at yourself, suddenly all this healing was coming up to be looked at and healed. And so that was pretty rough. Summer 2020. And I was going through a lot of health issues, dealing with migraines, found out I had a leaky gut. Luckily, I did find a wonderful functional medicine doctor who helped me. And so I used that time when we were in lockdown to really work on my health, to get my health back in order, to work on my emotions and put myself back together. I felt like Humpty Dumpty, all the pieces were all over, and I was just trying to, put myself back together. So I did a lot of work, and it was through that summer of 2020, I was like, you know what? I'm a good coach. I said, I have traversed and transformed through so many dark cycles, and I've been able to pick myself up and go towards the light, a new trajectory. And I said, I could really help people with this. I would make a good coach. So that's when the idea of creating a coaching business started to form. So I started to work on that. And sure enough, in March of 2021, I launched my coaching business. And so that was amazing. I've never had my own business before. So, and just that journey alone of embarking on your own entrepreneurial business, wow, that, even if nothing comes of it, there's so many juicy lessons. And so I have just been learning so much just being on this journey of being, my own business owner. It's been amazing. A lot of ups and downs, a lot of failures, but it's wonderful. It's exciting. So then when we hit June of 2021, I hit another kind of rough patch in my healing journey. My throat chakra was acting up, and I had to seek the help of somebody who I trust, a beautiful intuitive healer. And I had to reach out to her, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having a rough patch. And so sure enough, we discovered that my past life trauma was coming back up. So in one of my past lives, I was an herbalist. I lived alone in the forest and I helped people in secret. I created, like herbal concoctions or whatever it was, plant medicines. I helped people naturally heal. And I had to do all that in secret back in that day. Otherwise I would have gotten hung. So, and sure enough, I did get found out and I did get hung. So my throat chakra for months, I was this whole trauma from that past life was coming up. And that's when I realized, wow, things that happened to us in the past, even past lives, we really carry them over. And you really have to do some healing work to really put that chapter, to heal and put it behind you and release. So that was all coming up in June 2021. And I discovered Reiki at that time. I'm like, I need another toolkit in my wellness toolbox. And I was like, I need to learn Reiki because I can get so emotionally hijacked, that I need another way to help calm myself down. So I found a Reiki online. I did a Reiki 1, 2, 3 online, learned about Reiki. And so I got through all of that. I completed that in September of 2021. And then I realized after coming through that, I go, oh my gosh, I need a Reiki teacher, right? Here I am. I'm like, I need a Reiki teacher, a Reiki mentor. And so I was setting that intention and I kept sitting with that intention, calling in a Reiki teacher. And I remember in October 2021, on one of my walks, afternoon walks, I like to talk out loud to the universe and to my guides and things. And I said, please, I need to call in a Reiki teacher. Please help me. Please guide me. Please show me the best Reiki teacher who can help me, on my path and moving forward. So I kept just saying that over and over out loud. And then this one afternoon in October on my walk, after I was doing that, suddenly I heard telepathically Usui Sensei, who founded Reiki. He swooped in and he said, I will guide you, my daughter. And I was like, what? What? And of course, I started crying because, and I want to share this story with all of you because our prayers are answered. Anytime we set an intention and ask for help, our prayers are answered. We are receiving help. So that was just a clear message when he swooped in, I will guide you, my daughter. Suddenly I felt like, okay, I'm going to be guided to the best teacher who can help me now moving forward on my journey. And so then in November 2021, there was a Reiki Raise online summit where they had a bunch of Reiki teachers being interviewed. So I'm like, oh, perfect. I bet I'll find my Reiki teacher there, right? And so I was listening to a bunch, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's him. I heard Bruce Taylor from rootsoflife.org, and he totally resonated with me. He totally felt aligned to my roots and where I am and the best person who could guide me forward. So I instantly reached out to him. I said, I'm interested. I want to take Reiki again. And so I signed up for him for level 1 and 2 again. And then I remember before, like the first day before our class, I just jumped on his website again and I looked, I'm like, oh my gosh, Bruce is 4 teachers removed from Usui Sensei, Usui Mikao, the founder of Reiki. And I thought, of course, when I had that telepathic encounter with Usui Sensei, he guided me to Bruce because Bruce is 4 teachers removed from him. So the Reiki lineage is so close. And I was, oh, again, I felt so humbled and so honored that on my path, again, I was guided again, those Eastern traditions and philosophies, and just so closely connected to those roots. So that was beautiful. So love Bruce Taylor, rootsoflife.org. And I finished level 1 again with him in December 2021. And then March 2022, I finished the level 2 with him again. And then in October 2022, I finished the level 3 with Bruce again. So I felt so happy to go through the whole Reiki cycle again with my teacher and mentor. And it's just felt so good and more powerful, more powerful. And so after completing this certification again, I'm like, okay, it is time to share more Reiki with the world. And so this is what brings me so much joy. Reiki brings me so much joy. And again, Reiki is an internal practice, and it's such a beautiful tool every day to turn within with your hands on your body and just feeling that universal life force energy, just helping you calm down, helping you relax, helping you fill yourself up with love and healing light. And so it's been such a powerful, powerful tool in my wellness kit that I want to share. So I think I have gotten all of you up to speed. And then again, oh yes, so this year of 2022, I also developed a more intimate connection with the angels, my angels. And so that's how that has also evolved, is just working closely with the angels and angel card reading. So those are my offerings. So basically, part of my offerings, I love to help people create spiritual daily practices. And my offerings, I help people with mindfulness tools, tips, and techniques. So some of my offerings include the guided meditations, breathing, Reiki, and of course, angel card readings and messages. And so I thought it's going to be fun. Our time together here once a week, I'm just going to share a bunch of this so you can see what Reiki is if you don't know what Reiki is, and you can experience what a session would look like with me. We'll do some guided meditations. We'll do Reiki. We'll do angel card readings. So it's just going to be fun connecting with all of you once a week. And so for now, I have scheduled Fridays at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But please let me know, for those of you who do resonate with my services, for those of you who do want to come together and enjoy some Reiki together and meditations and angel messages, let me know if there's a better day and time for you to come live with me, and we can certainly tweak the schedules a little bit. But for now, I will stick to Fridays at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time until further notice. So what else? So next Friday, let's see, what's the date of next Friday? What is that date? Oh my goodness. Okay, Friday, December 2nd, we will do a Reiki share. So that will be where I can talk a little bit more about Reiki, and we will do a Reiki share. I will guide us through a Reiki share together, and that will be so beautiful. So I hope that kind of gives you a better sense about where I've come from, where I am today. And again, my offerings. So my offerings are my Reiki sessions. They are done online right now, currently. And I do have group offerings available for those people in the Orange County area. So I do meet with groups of 2 or more in nature settings for guided meditations, Reiki, and angel card readings. But my one-on-one sessions for Reiki are currently done online via Zoom, just so you know. And again, as we continue to evolve, as my journey continues to evolve, I will keep you posted how my services continue to evolve. But for now, everything is done remote, online, except for my group sessions for those who live in the Orange County area. I also have the Spiritual Wellness Meetup Community Orange County, and that is another great way if you live in the local area. Just Google Spiritual Wellness Meetup Community Orange County. You can read more about that there. And that's what we do. We gather one Sunday, the fourth Sunday of every month, to come together in nature. And we go to different nature locations. Sometimes we hike, sometimes we just meditate, do a little Reiki, pull some angel cards. And so it's a great way to just come together in community with like-minded people, and just, again, to share the offerings I have. And so if any of that resonates with you, please, follow me, subscribe to the channel. If you click that bell icon, then you'll get notified every time I go live and post a video on YouTube. And I would just love to continue to journey forward with all of you. So I'm wishing you an amazing weekend ahead, and I am so looking forward to seeing all of you next Friday live. And thank you for being here with me today. Sending you love and blessings. Bye for now.